today's topic is prospecting. And it's one of those that hopefully we can fill in a few expectation blanks. We can get you a little better prepared. I'm going to go through 11 steps that are essential to being effective at prospecting. Kathy, I want to talk to you a little bit about how you have structured those expectations so far. Hopefully I can give you some new ideas and thought processes. But before I launched into all that, I wanted to go back to 2 weeks ago and talk about product knowledge just a little bit. And you all had some level of takeaways from all of it. And Grace, if I may, I can start with you. Your takeaway was now how to use or to get better at utilizing all this product knowledge. What have you done so far since we spoke a couple weeks ago? How have you progressed? What have you learned? How are you using it? What's different in the past couple weeks, Grace?
So actually we did go down, I did with Carol to Cape yesterday, and I think that helped a lot, just seeing it being made.
Yeah.
Also just kind of reading through the books a little bit more, going through everything, and kind of just asking more questions.
And as you have learned more about the manufacturing process, the creation of the product, reading the books, etc., how are you associating that with future conversations? Is Kathy helping you, or is Heath helping you? Is anybody helping you with, well, this is what they're looking for, so pay attention to this? Or when they ask this question, this is what they're looking for? Are you starting to get to the point, Grace, where you can start dropping things into buckets from a product knowledge standpoint as to how you're going to use them?
I think Keith and Kathy have helped me a lot if I have any questions about anything. But I think when I'm explaining the products now, I like to go more into detail, because then I seem like I really know what I'm talking about, rather than kind of just saying, oh, we offer this and moving on. And then once I do go into more detail, maybe I say something that they like about our product that maybe the product they're getting before didn't have that. So just going into more detail is also kind of comparing it to what they're getting now in a way. So
my button got in.
Okay. All right. And has there been a time in the past couple of weeks that you've been challenged or asked a question that you needed to draw on some product knowledge that you had it at hand and were able to use it, and it felt really good that you had that knowledge?
Yeah, I think so. Usually it's just like more specific questions, kind of like when it comes to hardware, like what links does this come in, or can I get it this way, or just like specifics. But for the most part, I've kind of found out that we can do a lot. We're really not limited. Do a lot of custom work, so just knowing that I can pretty much always say, yes, we can do that, kind of helps.
That helps a lot, absolutely. And Kathy, I'm going to go over to you. Have you guys spent some time talking about competitors and how to market yourself against them, what their advantages and disadvantages are? Did you guys go through that exercise? Kathy, I can't hear you if you're talking. You're still on mute.
Kathy, you need to press your button on your microphone that you're talking into. We still can't hear you.
Still can't hear you.
Deji's having a hard time with her headset.
Press the button that allows you to talk through your computer instead of through your phone.
Can you hear me yet?
Yes,
now we can.
We can hear you.
Now we're
okay. I'm having a really bad delay on my computer, so that's what my problem is. I've got it set correctly, but it's acting weird. I'm sorry, Vaughn, what was the question one more time? Oh, we talked about, have we done that yet? We have not done that yet.
Okay. All right.
I've only had one cup of coffee this morning, so
Well, you got to catch it up.
we have actually talked about how we need to do that more, and I have we have an exercise that I want to do with these guys that we're going to kind of do some stuff with competitors, have some kind of fun with learning competitors and presenting what they have to offer. So we have not done that yet.
Okay, good. Have you got it on the calendar for yourself as to when you're going to do that, or you're just trying to find the time now? Well, your internet is.
No, I actually do have it on the calendar. I'm hoping that within the beginning of October, we're going to do it. We're going to do like a fun, like Shark Tank kind of fun thing.
Oh, great idea. I like that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So my thought is we'll kick it off beginning of October.
Okay, excellent. All right. Thanks for that. And then Sheila, one of the things you took away from the last training was understanding more about, or needing to learn more about the benefits of RM Coco's products. How's that progressed? What have you learned? How's that been able to be used for you so far?
Well, I think now, oh, am I unmuted?
No, you're perfect. You're
Okay, I'm good.
doing way better than Kathy.
I think now that we are actually in the middle of being on the phone, talking with customers, we're doing versus learning, it's all falling into place because we have the questions, you answer a question, the next time you know the answer without looking it up. So doing it has really helped for me.
Okay, yeah, that's where it all comes together. That's my favorite response. I'm so glad you had it. So good job with that. And then Leslie, that was well, I guess that was kind of similar to what your takeaway was, but tell me a little bit about how you've been able to pick up on some product knowledge and how you've been utilizing it.
Well, I'll be honest with you, like I feel very confident and good at talking to people kind of about overarching general, but I do feel like there's still a lot of customers who say, well, I use Forest something or other hardware, or I use Horizons for my lining, and I'm like, that's a lot of information. I still, don't have any ammunition to really combat that situation. So I just say, oh, okay, I'll find out more about that and be able to, know for next time. So I would say that I'm at about a 45 to 50% on product knowledge.
Okay, all right, and you're going to continue to grow on that.
Oh yeah.
And so that the next exercise you guys are going to go through, which is position yourself against the competitors that Kathy's going to do, is going to be perfect to fill in those gaps for you. Awesome. And Sarah, let's see, the differences, you talked about, you needed to learn more about the differences between the different products and the competitors. So where do you stand on your product knowledge confidence?
I think my confidence is always growing. I'm getting better at just being more confident about it. But I think I took an entire afternoon one time just to really go over the workroom and what we do there, a little bit more detail about that, because I know our last team meeting we talked about like how to actually price out for the workroom. So I really sat myself down and really studied it in a way, and I feel I'm getting more and more confident about my wording and how to present things like that to a client if I'm on the phone. I haven't had too many slip ups or mishaps with the competitor aspect of everything. I think basically because everyone I've been talking to is a really good client of ours, so I haven't had too much issue with that. But I also I'm still in my top people, so I'm slowly trickling down the line. So it's getting better.
Okay, well, good. And practice to Sheila's point, as you start utilizing it, you gain confidence, you You gain
I
knowledge.
agree with Sheila with the whole doing is definitely helping me out personally too with just getting better at it. You can talk about it with people all the time and hear about it, but when you actually get on the phone and talk to people, a whole different ball game, and it's way better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, thanks for sharing that. This kind of pulls product knowledge. Today's session pulls product knowledge in your conversations together, and putting some structure together as to how I go prospect, how I need to have conversations, what the follow-up looks like, how many conversations, and I think it's from a realism standpoint. We need to take to continue to grow your product knowledge experience. Add in this prospecting module that we're talking about today, marry those for at least a month before we introduce anything else to you guys. The fourth module in all this is active listening, which is important, but I'd like to give you guys some time to marinate between these two things. We've talked about the process, we've talked, the 10-step process, we've talked about product knowledge, and now we're going to talk about prospecting. Then we're going to give it a month to let you guys add all that together, get comfortable using it. To Sheila's very valid point, learning by doing, and then towards the end of October, we will come in and do active listening training. Sound like a plan, Kathy? I'm going to quit calling on Kathy.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, I was having seriously trouble with my computer. It sounded like you guys were all muffled, so I got on a different computer real quick.
Oh, good,
so.
Good move.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So what was I missed the last couple minutes. So
Okay.
what was
So what I think is best suited for everybody's learning is they got the 10-step process. They're working on their product knowledge, gaining confidence and skills in that. With today's presentation, which is on prospecting, let's get those three things marinated, married, utilized, practiced for the next 4 weeks before we introduce any more training. So our next training session with the group will be sometimes towards the end of October, to give plenty of runway for them to get comfortable with all this. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, good. And then you and I and Heath will get back together on the management side of things in between.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay. All right. After he gets done landscaping. All right. I just want to make a note to myself so I don't forget that you agreed to do all this. All right. So let's get into the prospecting aspect of it. And before I even go there, Kathy, what have you done with your team so far? And I know you've done something to help set up some structure or expectation around their prospecting efforts. What do those discussions look like?
So we've actually, between Heath and myself actually, so we've been giving them a list of customers that are priorities based on some of the things we're going to focus on, like, for example, the workroom. So we've gone through their list of accounts and really given them a good list of those accounts that are good candidates for that. For prospecting, we haven't done a ton with prospecting, other than there's a lot of prospects in our CRM system already. So we're focusing on getting a hold of them because they currently don't have accounts with us. So that's where we're currently at with prospecting, like the beginning stages.
Fantastic. So this timing is going to be good. Have you talked at all, Kathy, about your opinions or ideas or input on what those prospecting conversations should sound like? And if you haven't, that's great.
Yeah, to be honest, not really.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Because that's what we're going to do today.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to talk about what those conversations sound like, what your emails should look like. I sent you one of the more valuable tools that I use. It's from HubSpot. And again, I work with HubSpot. I'm a consultant with them. I use a lot of their tools because they are high value. I sent you all an ebook with all kinds of email templates. Kathy, when you get a moment to go through and kind of absorb those yourself, maybe discuss with your team some of those email templates. We're going to talk a little bit more about those shortly. But there's the email, in my opinion, and what we're going to talk about today, warms up the phone call. And
Right.
have the right process. That phone call is a whole lot easier discussion than just a cold outreach. Agreed?
Yes, I agree.
But there's a neuroscience behind people reading your emails, and there's also all kinds of data that tells you what should be in that email, what time to send that email. We're going to cover all that. We're going to cover today about what some of the questions you should be asking, some of the things that you should look for and avoid during the course of conversations, how often you should be outreaching to your prospects. We're going to talk about persistence, but in the end, I'm going to give you 11 steps, 11 core prospecting strategies that through time and working with many other companies, I actually started with 17 prospecting strategies. I've narrowed it down to 11 because I think at the stage at where RM Coco is right now with this team, these 11 are the right ones for you guys to be working on. If we need advanced training later on, I'll throw in the extra 6 for free. But I think these 11 will get you done. So we're going to talk about the 11 core prospecting strategies. We're going to talk about some techniques. We're going to talk about some systems. We're going to talk about processes. And the great news is you can start utilizing this stuff today. And if you continue, whatever you take out of this is going to be valuable to you from a sales perspective, from an income perspective. The more of these 11 strategies you get very comfortable with and you use, it's like baking a cake. These are ingredients that go into a recipe of success. The more of these you can use, these concepts that you can utilize and practice on a daily basis, the higher your level of success is going to be. It's been proven time after time after time. And as you guys all use it, you'll find the same results out of it. Now, I'm not trying to set a course of action here, but most people will take 3 or 4 that they feel really comfortable with, and those are the strategies they'll use, and that's fine. What I will tell you now, and it'll be recorded because we're recording this, is when you reach a plateau, and you will, if you choose half of these or 3 of these or some number of these less than 11, you will reach a plateau in your results. And when you reach that plateau, and Kathy's going to point that out to you, Kathy and Heath will point that out to you, go back to this module, read back through the 11 strategies, recognize the ones that you're not using or not using frequently, and add that into your recipe, and you'll watch your results go up. When I've managed sales teams, I've managed sales managers, I've managed huge teams in the past, small teams in the past. That is just the way history has proven itself for these strategies to work for you. So with that, I'm going to launch into principle number 1, preparation. And it is, to many sales reps, it's time consuming because they just want to get on the phone or they just want to fire off the email. And I caution you doing that. If you can take a minute and try to do some activity around getting to know who you're about to outreach to, it's going to solve a couple challenges for you. One is going to make you more confident. Just knowing a little bit about the prospect, their company, maybe the history that they've had with RM Coco or the lack thereof. And we're going to talk about how you do all this. Gains you some level of confidence. And more importantly, as you can pick up on maybe some things that you could connect with this person on. If you look at their LinkedIn or their Facebook or their website, there may be geographic connections. There could be college or schooling connections. It could be association connections. There's a litany of things that even virtually, not being in the same room with them, you'll be able to pick up on. That as soon as you can, if you can always tune in your eye to look for a way to connect personally with somebody, it's high value to you. So before you make a phone call, I ask you all to develop the process, the habit of just going to their website, taking a look at it. It gives you, there's always an About Us page on there. You can find a little bit of history of the founder or the owner of this design firm. You can sometimes, if they have a team, look at their team, that Our Team session. Most people have that on their website. Maybe flip over to LinkedIn, do a quick search and see if they're on LinkedIn. That typically gives you a little more personal information or professional personal information. You can do a quick Google search on the company. Just do some level of 5 minutes or so, no more than 10, of doing a quick bit of research so that you know a little bit about this prospect before you reach out to them. And also in preparation, we're going to talk about this. We're going to go into some detail on this. Is also, now I know something about them. What am I going to say when I get on the phone with them? And so what's my 30-second introductory speech going to sound like? And Kathy, this is where you're going to come in to help in this, aid in this in a big way. Is not only do we need to know something about them, we need to be able to convey to them very quickly who we are and what we do. And I have found that when I am I'm scripted, I practice that script, I've memorized that script, it comes naturally to me. But in the beginning, I want to be as confident and prepared as I can before I talk to somebody. And the first 15 or 20 are a little rocky until you get a little practice with this, but you need to know what to say. And it would be nice if you guys as a team would all be able to share ideas and thoughts and experiences that can always be continually improving this opening script, this 30-second commercial of who you are and what you do with any prospect. It's going to become second nature for you, and it'll make your calls a lot easier to make, a whole lot smoother and more impressive. So I'm going to, let me just pause 1 second. Kathy, I'm going to give you a minute to get your mic back on. Have you in the past, because I know you've been doing this a long time, what has been your experience in the past of doing a quick Google search or doing some research before you reached out to a prospect?
I think it's good and bad. I think that you want to do some research to get an idea of who you're talking to, but you don't want to spend a ton of time on that research. You want to just get the bullets of information, and it might be not only the company, but a really quick peek at who you're trying to call. Maybe looking at their LinkedIn profile. Are you talking to the owner? Are you talking to a user? Are you talking to, who are you going to be talking to that's going to gear your conversation a little bit differently?
Yeah, spot on, spot on. And so, if you can spend 5 minutes before a phone call to do that, it's going to prepare you. If you can capture some notes in your CRM based on what you see so you remember it later, you're going to be making hundreds and hundreds of phone calls. And as fine as your memory is, you're not going to remember some of these bullet points that you're going to learn about this prospect. Capture those in your CRM so you can refer back to them on future phone calls. If you have a conversation and there is some connection that is created, make sure and it could be both, your kids, their kids play soccer, that you're from the same hometown, that you love the same kind of food, whatever it is, capturing that in your CRM so that you've got that to go back to. You've got a tickler to remind you in the future, because you'll forget. Because you're going to have hundreds of contacts to reach out to as this continues to build. build something into your CRM notes so you can draw back on whatever that discussion was. And again, to Kathy's point, it doesn't need to be detailed. A few bullet points, a few connection points, but make sure you record them in some way. Right, Kathy? Right, Kathy?
Right. Correct.
All
That's
right.
correct.
All right.
The notes, guys, the notes tab in Goldmine is the perfect place to put some
Right.
notes like that because they're more permanent. In history, if you complete a call and put those type of notes in there, they get buried way below. So that notes area is kind of a pure area to put things like important things like that.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. We're working on the differences between those two fields, so that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, notes is something you want to see over and over and over. You know, history is something where you completed, you followed up on an order, you gave a quote, you did something.
Okay, I'm glad you guys brought that up. Thanks.
It's transactional in nature and it goes into the history. Notes is something.
Very good. So I want to go back to a point I made a couple weeks ago with you guys. Always remember, it's empathy before expertise. And this research will help you sell you, because in the end, you're selling you to every prospect. They're going to buy from a human, not from RM Coco as an entity. So we want to make you as impressive as we possibly can. And let me tell you, it always, whether somebody's reaching out to sell me something or I do this, I practice what I preach. Before I call a prospect, I'll typically do a little research on them so I know a few things about them, or at least have some questions I can ask them to show some level of interest. If you visited their website or their LinkedIn page and you see something you think is really attractive about them, that they've got a really cool website, or you love their profile picture in LinkedIn, be prepared to pay them a compliment. So that always warms somebody up a little bit with you. And it's essential, Kathy, back to you, as we put all this together, to have the team role play together on what these calls sound like so that they're really practiced. We'd rather we practice with each other on these calls, especially to really cold, I don't know you kind of folks. Role play these calls, get practice with the group, practice with each other before we practice on customers. Does that make sense, Kathy? You agree?
Yeah, I have some role playing of just fundamental stuff ready to go. So
excellent, excellent. So I'm going to do a quick round robin, and when we're reaching out to the people that we've been assigned so far, what are we saying now, Leslie? When you call, how are you introducing yourself? What does that sound like right now?
Hi, I'm Leslie. I'm going to be your waitress for the night. No. I mean, honestly, most of the things that I was doing the first 2 weeks, I was just like, hey, who I am and who I'm with, RM Coco. And I always typically say RM Coco Fabrics, but I mean, if that's not correct, I could probably change that. But at least that kind of gets me into, okay, and I'm going to be your new inside sales rep. And right now, if I would like to get to know you a little bit better so I can better understand our partnership and how I can help you, with your business and drive sales and things like that. But lately, the people that I've been calling are mainly people who haven't had a chance to reach out that are making large orders. And I'll just call and say, I've seen that, you've been placing some orders. Thank you. And I will be your point of contact if you need, anything else. So that's kind of like where I'm at. I was trying to do all the lists of the custom creations workroom and the hardware, and I kind of got through those, but then I keep getting lots of questions from people who I'm just talking to. So it's like juggling right now.
Okay. All right. Thanks. And Kathy, let me turn to you. Should she say RM Coco or RM Coco Fabrics, or does it matter?
I guess I'm not quite sure. I kind of think RM Coco's fabrics is okay. Mike, maybe you've been doing a lot longer than me. Do you disagree with that?
Well, we are more than fabrics. I mean, we're a workroom, we're hardware.
Right. Right.
So obviously
Say
fabrics is
decor.
about 50% of our,
Yeah.
RM Coco Decor Limited is our name. And the reason we chose that was because we're more than, about 50% of our business is fabrics, 25% is workroom, and 20% is hardware. But, you know, it does revolve around, even workroom revolve around fabrics. So,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we were doing that because I think Leslie
was.
I think she was doing that because it was a quick, easy way for the customer to connect who we were a little bit. You know, I think that was the point, right, Leslie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, Leslie, for sharing that. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
What have your conversations when you're reaching out to folks now? What have you been saying? How you been introducing yourself?
It's very similar to what Leslie said, but I don't say fabrics. I just say RM Coco.
Okay.
Basically, I just say, hi, my name is Sarah Kennedy. I'm with RM Coco. And then usually I'm like, how are you doing today? Like I give a little greeting or something like that, or this morning or this afternoon. And then normally they're like, oh, okay. And I'm just like, oh, I'm going to be your new inside sales representative. I'm hoping to have a better connection between you and I to help, you know, both our sales go up and that kind of stuff. And I'm normally really, really bubbly, and they make fun of me all the time for it.
I can tell. Yeah.
That's just who I am. And a lot of times, you know, the customers are like, oh, okay, great. And they're just as bubbly as me, or sometimes I get the notion that they don't really want to talk very much. So I quick up my little speech and I'm like, okay, well, it was great talking to you. I hope you have a good day. And then click. But sometimes I have had people hang up on me because they're just like, I'm just too busy. So then I call them back later on, but not too crazy. I keep it short and sweet. And then I open it up for them if they have any questions for me. And I try to answer them as best I can. A lot of times it's about an order they placed previously and they want to know where it is, or they want to know something about either something got misplaced or maybe something was mischarged. So that's kind of how I go about it. And then I obviously have to say, well, I have to contact customer service and I'll get back to you. So then I do the whole thing. But normally it's short, sweet, simple, because I'm still introducing myself to people. I haven't really, you know, like I call people back shortly about other things, but I'm still introducing, so it goes pretty quickly.
Okay. All right. And I think we'll give you a little more ammunition and ability to have more to talk about here in just a few minutes. So, and again, we want to be able to disarm your customer. Part of what we're going to talk about in just a few minutes is how to disarm somebody when they answer the phone. All right. So that they don't feel like they're being sold to. So we don't want to sound like a salesperson. And so we're going to talk about an approach that, again, works pretty damn well, but only if used, you know, but it's probably different than what some of you are used to doing in the past. It's a little more aggressive, but I can tell you it really disarms folks. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So, Kathy, when you guys get back together to do role plays, here in the slides and in the material is the slow role play scenario, which is introduce yourself, your company, just like, you know, Leslie was talking about. But here's something that disarms somebody. It's say, hey, this is Vaughn Sigmund with ABC Company. I'm sure I've caught you in the middle of something. That's disarming. What most people will say, you know, do you have time to talk for a minute, or are you busy right now? Well, yeah, everybody's always busy all the time. It's just a play on words. I'm sure I've caught you at a bad time, or have I caught you in the middle of something? And they're always going to say, well, yes, absolutely you have, or yes, I am busy right now. Or you can say, hey, Tom, how you been? Have I caught you at a bad time? Now, don't try not to do this. This is how you sound like a salesperson versus sounding like you. Don't say, how are you? Everybody says, how are you? All right. So again, just a little play on words, which is disarming. Say, how have you been? You guys pick up on the subtle, but the big difference in that? Because they're not going to be used to somebody saying, how have you been? Think when somebody says, how have you been? That automatically associates with, well, do I know this person? It takes them out of the neuroscience track, which is, oh God, here comes another salesperson. Because when you say, how are you? Every salesperson says that. If I say, how have you been? That takes them off of the neuroscience thought track of, oh God, here comes another salesperson. Do I know this person? And then the next step in all this is and they're always going to say they're busy. So I understand, do you have 30 seconds? 30 seconds. I can tell you why I'm calling it. If in the end you got no interest, we'll just hang up. Sound good?
Hey, Vaughn, another way I do that, instead of, do you have 30 seconds? I only have 30 seconds. So that tells them that you don't have time to have a long conversation with them.
Yeah, either way works like a charm. Thanks for bringing that up, Kathy. And then you've got, this is where your 30-second speech comes in. And I just listed my 30-second commercial on here to give you an example of what that sounds like. Is offer management training and coaching services here in Orange County. Our typical client is dealing with challenges with less than acceptable sales performance and productivity, not hitting goals or targets regularly. Does any of that ring true with you and your company? And so it goes back to product knowledge and you knowing what you do and what your advantages are. That's got to go into your 30-second commercial. Here's what I do. Here's the problems I solve, because we're problem solvers, not salespeople. And so I solve their sales performance issues, essentially. I don't provide training. I provide training that solves their sales performance issues, right? You don't sell fabric, you sell solutions that benefit their clients on design needs. Sarah, does that make sense? Okay. Grace, does that make sense? Yes, she's nodding. Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I can't have you guys all on the same screen at the same time, so I gotta punch around a little bit and find you. So, Kathy, will you take this section of the presentation and start working with your team on putting together these scripts as to what this opening conversation sounds like?
Yeah, I like the idea of everybody coming up with their own little 30-second commercial, and we'll get together and collaborate and maybe figure out what works for you. Because something different going to work for each person. So,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
Somebody might have a good idea that somebody else didn't think of. So we can do that at our team meeting. It's a good idea.
Yeah, great idea. I'm great that you think that. I know it's a great idea because it was my idea.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding. But I've watched these role plays hundreds and hundreds of times on these sort of things where everybody just starts learning from each other. And there's also some comfort in there. If somebody's struggling with something, there's always somebody else, if not everybody, struggling with the same thing. And so there's some comfort in all that. But I promise you, Kathy, and you've seen this happen too, everybody will get so much more confident and proficient at it when we work together at it. And to your point, and it's a very key point, it's got to be yours. Sarah's can't be Grace's can't be Leslie's. It's got to be yours, and it's got to come out of your mouth naturally. It's got to be your feel on things. So, Kathy, the next thing you'll work with them on is the 30-second commercial they're going to work on. And I think based on the product knowledge that they're gaining, some of the experience they're having right now in speaking with clients, although they may be larger clients that are that where R and Coco is already better known to those clients. We've got to get them prepared based on some of those interactions to be able to talk to future clients who don't know us as well, or have never heard of us before. And then it all comes down to practice. So it's one thing to come up with a 30-second commercial. We've got to say it, and again, let's say it in front of each other, not to clients. Let's practice internally versus externally until you're really comfortable with it rolling off your tongue. And there's nothing wrong with taping it up the top of your computer so that you've got a cue card to work with until you get really comfortable with it. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. So, and this is just the way that I've done it in the past. I've seen it work. Kathy, you may have another approach. Is let's just start bullet pointing all the things that your company does or sells, the pain points that you resolve, what you're really good at, what you don't do sometimes, what your value proposition is, and everybody just start writing this stuff down, and a little bit of a spitball exercise, and then everybody starts sharing what they've bullet pointed in all this. And as you get the commonalities, then you can start stringing together some sentences based on those bullet points. Have you done it that way in the past, Kathy?
Kind of. My former company had way too many products, so it was hard to come up with one. But we have done, yes, we did it.
Okay. So let's please have this on your agenda when you're doing the role play as part of that whole role play during your sales meeting, to get this 30-second commercial nailed down.
Sounds good.
All right, cool. The next phase in preparation is, and I dwell a little bit on a couple of these strategies. I promise you, we're not going to go through 11 in this much detail, but this one alone is so friggin' important, is you got to have a goal for every call. Why am I calling this person? And this is one of those huge mistakes I see way too many salespeople make, is they're just dialing for dollars. They're just dialing without the preparation or any thought into what do I want to get out of this call. Do I want to send them samples? Do I want to get their email? Do I want to set an appointment with them? What is my purpose of this phone call? What is the mission that I've got behind this? Because rarely is the goal, especially in the initial stages, going to be that I'm going to sell them something. Take that pressure off yourself. It's really typically your goal is to move this prospect to the next step, a meeting, a presentation, that sort of thing, not to buy something right away. And in fact, most people, in fact, 75% of the people you'll interact with are not prepared to make a decision as quickly unless they've got some fire going on that they need the product right away. And thank God you called. And yes, those do happen. You slid down the pole and you were there with the hose to put out their fire. That does happen. But you want to build a relationship. You want to get to know them. You want them to understand what you offer, what problems you solve. You want to get across to them enough to where you can move this sale to the next step. And it may be a 2-step sale. It may be a 3-step sale. You know, it may be a 20-step sell depending on the type of prospect that you're working with. If they're slow to make decisions or slow to make change, it may take far longer. Every sale and every presentation and every prospect takes on its own form. There's never going to be one size fits all. And so again, back to your notes section, however you left off is where you've got to pick back up again. And remind them, hey, last time we talked, this is what we talked about. Here, I'm back again. But again, please take the pressure off yourself that unless we're at that step, that you're trying to sell something on every phone call. Now, you want to plant a seed. You want to plant a seed that either moves this thing forward to the next meeting or not. And if not, that's okay. Move on. None of this is personal. If they're not interested in talking with you, that's okay. But if they want to talk, let's be prepared to have some questions. Well, yeah, I've got a few minutes. I'd love to learn more. That you've got some pre-prepared questions after your 30-second commercial, after this initial discussion. Say, yeah, let's talk. Let's have 4, 5, 6 open-ended questions prepared to start diving in and finding out what the needs of this prospect are. And I think it was Sarah earlier when they, you want to be able to get them talking. That's the mission of all this. And if they're not talking, they're hanging up. And we don't really want them to hang up. We want them talking, and because if they're talking, you're learning. You're able to process this information and say, okay, I can guide it this way, I can guide it that way. But again, Kathy, this is part of what you guys ought to be working on as a team, is having a list of pain point questions. Now that's part of what the industry needs. And Heath, I'm sure, will be a huge help in all this. But have you had this problem? Have you had this problem? These are the problems we solved. Does any of that ring true to you? And they say, well, yeah. Well, which one of those has rung true with you? Well, what's a common pain point, Kathy, that RM Coco solves?
I think the one we've been seeing lately is some workroom questions. You know, how I think we had one the other day where it was, I think it was Leslie's, where it was quality of Roman shades. Wasn't that yours, Leslie? I think on what showed through. So it was really about comparing our quality to somebody else's quality work.
Okay, and this was on Roman shades.
Yeah, it was from our work. It was a workroom conversation.
And was it they were getting poor quality from a competitor or another supplier, or they were looking for somebody that could provide a certain level of quality?
Well, they actually the opposite. Yeah, right, Leslie. Go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah,
you talk about
they
it.
get the Roman shades from someone else, and I said, oh, well, you know, we have those available, and we have them in a new product that we were just launching. And so I was kind of telling her about that, and we learned about at the workroom, they can produce these that you can't see the pinpoints where the tracking whatever device is. And so I just had mentioned that to her. I didn't try to sell it to her. I just mentioned, oh, we can provide that if you're ever interested in like finding out more.
Okay. And what did you understand why that was something that was important to her?
Oh yeah. I mean, because it was mainly because of it's a blackout material, and when you're trying to do a blackout, you don't want to see any light through it. So that was important.
Okay. So you know, I put some common drill down questions on this slide. Again, Kathy, you guys work on this together, but when they come up with a challenge that they're facing, how long has that been a challenge? What have you done in the past? What have you done to solve it? How much is that costing you? Because it's usually time or money is the big pain points. Just have 4 or 5 open-ended questions to probe into so you gather more information and, more importantly, get them talking.
Right.
So at the end of the towards the end of the conversation, you see this wrapping up, you know, you want to take it to the next step, and that next step may be a more detailed presentation, or to send them samples, but to follow up on a conversation about those samples. Always try to set a calendar appointment for the follow-up, for the next phone call. And here's another mistake many people make. I don't know whether you guys are making it or not, but can I call you back in a couple weeks? Yeah, call me back in a couple weeks. Okay, well, as soon as I hang up the phone, they've completely forgotten about you. But how you can improve that is saying, okay, let's set an appointment. You got your calendar handy, and you got to have your calendar handy, and you got to say, hey, Tuesday the 10th is what's 1 o'clock in the afternoon for about 45 minutes sound like. You got to nail them down to a date and time. And do you guys have the ability to send out a calendar invite to your prospects?
They should be able to. Yeah.
Okay. Let's make sure everybody's comfortable with that, of how to do that. But get on their calendar. That serves two purposes. One, it gets a little bit of skin in the game on their part. They're committed to you. It's magical how when somebody actually has a calendar appointment, how much more likely they are to be there when that appointment rolls around. And it saves you from the voicemails back and forth. Well, I was busy, or, oh, I forgot about it, or, hey, I said I'd call back in a couple weeks, and here I am. And voicemail, 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 voicemail. We're trying to save you time and make you more proficient and effective during the course of your day. And these calendar appointments are essential to getting more people there for a follow-up phone call. Make sense? So get them a calendar, send them a reminder ahead of the appointment. So that's a best practice you guys need to get into. Tell them you're going to send them a calendar reminder. What's the best email to send this to? Always ask that question. And then make sure a day or two ahead of this appointment that you send them a reminder. Looking forward to seeing you or talking to you on Tuesday. Send them an invite. And then this is crucial. Within 2 minutes of hanging up the phone call, send them a quick email thanking them for the phone call. All right. And then again, some kind of reminder, at least 24 hours ahead of time, ahead of your appointment, send them a reminder. Now, I'm going to pause. Who has a question on this? Kathy,
I'll ask a question.
Oh, good.
How do you tackle if they don't want to set an appointment for, a 30 or 45-minute conversation?
Then you can't set an appointment. I mean, it's just that simple. We're not breaking arms and twisting legs around here. If they're not, that is a key indication, Sheila, that they're really not interested in you.
Okay.
If they are, they'll set an appointment. But an appointment is really a buying signal. And so, no, I'm too busy to set an appointment. Okay, you just move them down your follow-up list, right? Okay. And when I don't have, they may come back. They go into another file and says, I'll follow up in a month. I'll follow up in 2 months. But you're trying to build. In the end. You guys probably know how hotel rooms work, right? I own a hotel. I've got 100 rooms in there, and I'm trying to fill those 100 rooms up every single day because that's how I make the most money. Well, how salespeople can take the hotel approach and say, I've got a calendar. And my best resource for making money is appointments that are presentations to get people to buy. And so if I look at my calendar like a hotel owner looks at their hotel, I'm trying to fill my calendar with as many appointments to make presentations and have sales conversations as I possibly can. Because that's how I make money. And so if somebody's not interested in renting my room or taking up that time on my calendar, fine, I got to work on somebody that is. You comfortable with that, Sheila? Mm-hmm. Okay. The thing that I do not ever profess or encourage people to do is to take any hardcore, and I don't think it would ever work in your industry anyway, hardcore tactics, try to nail people down. It just doesn't work. We're trying to build a relationship, get to know people. We've got stuff they need. We've got hardware, and we got fabrics, and we got service that they need. If they're not interested in us, they're not interested in us. They're not interested in Sheila, just not interested in what we have. So what?
And really, maybe it's not 45 minutes. Maybe the time could scare them. So maybe you can get 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I think you can try to read them for that too.
Yeah, I think 45 would scare people away because they think that's
Well, you
that's
might
an
not
hour
have
of my
anything
day.
to talk about. Well, yeah, you might not have that much that takes that long to go over with our product. It depends on what you're going to talk about too.
It depends on the conversation. Yeah, good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Sheila. I put that on there as an example, not as a rule.
I have a question. Are we going to talk about how to structure a presentation for a meeting like this at some point?
Oh yeah, I think that's number 7 in all the modules.
Okay.
It's a 7-minute presentation. Nice, tight, conversational presentation approach. Who else has a question? Okay. Oh, and let me get back to one point. As you are signing off, always remember that as a sales professional, you have to stay in charge of this conversation. And there are certain words that either they're more likely to move things forward than others. And I'll just give you a quick example because I've got it on the screen. Very often, because of our fear of rejection, we will soften the words that we use. Well, would you like to make an appointment for a couple weeks? And maybe on a Tuesday or something like that. Now, I'm over exaggerating right now, but very often we'll ask a closed-ended question. Would you like to? Would you be open to? Instead of taking a little more powerful approach, and it's amazing how everybody just follows you along. And I mean, almost everybody say, okay, sounds like we've got something going on here. Let's do this. Let's set an appointment. You got your calendar ready? What do Tuesdays look like for you? Instead of saying, would you like to make an appointment on Tuesday the 10th? Say, let's do this. You got your calendar ready? Let's find some time on your calendar that matches my calendar and set an appointment to discuss this further.
Yeah, I love a line I've been saying for years. I think I heard you say this, and you repeat back what they said, and it shows that you were listening to them. And then how about I'm going to give you a call back in whatever timeline.
Yep, let's do this. Let's set up a time to call again in a couple weeks. That's going to put us into the second week of October. What's the best day to call you? Let me see if I've got some time. Just try to avoid using would you like to or would you mind if. Anything can be answered with a yes or no.
That was actually in our one-on-one with Sarah. We talked about that, and that was her goal. And she's actually gotten a lot better at not asking. So
good.
I was going to mention that, but I didn't want to interrupt any conversation that was happening.
You should always mention when you've improved yourself.
Yeah, because that was one thing I mentioned to Kathy. I'm having trouble keeping people on the phone because I am nice on the phone. And she's like, well, what are you saying? I go, well, I'd be like, well, do you have time? Or like those things basically you just said not to do. And so then Kathy's like, well, don't ask if they have time. Say that you only have so much time. And then say, okay, well, then I will call you back in about 2 weeks or a month. And, you don't give them the option to basically say no. You want to make sure you say, I will do this or we will do that. Because then you really don't give them less option to say no. So I'm learning little by little. Because, this is so completely new to me. So any type of thing I can get help you guys, it can get better.
Practice and confidence, and thanks so much because that, Sarah, honestly, you are going right down the path that almost everybody in sales follows, and it's a path that slows down your results.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's good that you've got somebody as astute and as experienced as Kathy guiding you along, and it's even better that you asked. So hats off.
Thank you.
Sure. And then wrapping up on this appointment part of it, three-phase confirmation. Three-phase confirmation. And once they say they're going to meet, phase one, ask the prospect for their phone number, their email address, best phone number, best email address, and that you can send an invite to, and promise that you're only send what is directly related to this conversation. Don't start spamming them on anything, but get that scheduled appointment. Phase two, send a confirmation message ahead of time. And if within that confirmation message, if there was something like, I had a guy do this to me yesterday, it was beautiful, with a link to something that we talked about during the course of the conversation. So I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. He works for a data company, we started talking about leadership and what makes for a good leader. He had read the same book that I had from some Navy SEAL about leadership. He said, well, did you see this video? And I said, man, I'm not sure I've seen that video. Well, 2 minutes later, I was getting the link to that video that he and I talked about, along with his thank you for taking the time to talk to him yesterday. And so it's, if you've got the ability to send them a link to an article or even some kind of follow-up that you talked about in the way of a fabric or a sample or something along those lines, that just starts creating the glue to the relationship. So send a confirmation message. If you can include a link to something that you guys talked about, that's great. And then phase three is follow up on that appointment within 24 hours. You can do that via text. You can do it via email. You can do it via phone call or voicemail. But make sure that you're confirming that appointment. And you're setting yourself up for success by doing this, but the science behind it is they keep seeing Leslie's name, they keep seeing Sheila's name, they keep seeing Sarah's name, and keep seeing Grace's name, and that just starts ingraining your name into their daily routine, which is important. It's no different than running a Tide commercial, right? The more often you see Tide, the more likely you are to buy Tide. So I'm actually going to move on to something else now. Self-branding. This isn't a deep one, but I think it's one that has a lot of value if you're willing to commit to it and work on it. I encourage you to do it. And Kathy, I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Is again, you're selling you who happens to sell RM Cutco fabrics. They're going to transact with you. They're going to buy you. They're going to buy your personality. You're going to buy through the relationship you build with them. And if you've got some self-branding, when I say self-branding to you, Leslie, what does that mean to you?
Good question. I mean, Leslie, I'll jump in because you do it. You call your customers in Arkansas, and the first thing you say is, I'm from Little Rock.
Right.
And then that's the connection.
Good job, Sheila.
There you go. Good job. It's something that brands you that they can relate to. Okay. And that the parties will feel more comfortable speaking with you or even deciding. Yeah, Sarah.
I have a question.
Please.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's what I'm here for.
Could a self-branding be our background? Like Leslie, Sheila, and I have a design background. Could that be a self-branding? Because I've used that a couple of times in conversations, and it has helped with the conversation going further. But I don't know if that's like a good one because I don't have too much like to relate to them because it's the East Coast versus like where I'm from. I've never been to the East Coast, so I don't know much about like their location.
Yeah, no, you're going right down the perfect track. You're trying to build something that they can relate to.
Okay.
It's that conduit. You do it, I do it. You know it, I know it. I'm interested in it, you're interested in it. It's like a ping pong of connection. Now, the good news, this doesn't take a lot of time. In fact, Leslie, we're already seeing that. How many seconds did it take you to figure out, hey, this is Leslie from Little Rock? Because that creates that connection. And so it does, this is not a huge time consuming thing, but in the 21st century that we're living in, we need to have some kind of, typically a digital technique for branding ourselves. And that's today is generally LinkedIn. And so Kathy, what's your opinion on everybody doing something around their LinkedIn page?
That's actually great. I think they should be following our RM Coco, and when marketing sends out stuff on LinkedIn, they should be sharing it every single time. That's part of it. The other part that they're already doing, you guys have already done this. We've created email blasts for every single one of your territories to introduce you. And you guys all wrote a little bio about yourself that went to your customers. So you can re-talk about that with them as well. So there's so many options, but LinkedIn is huge. I use LinkedIn all the time to try to connect with people.
Yeah, it's a great search engine for finding the right people to talk to. As I've poked around a little bit, I see your industry uses it a lot. It's out there and it helps you get through some doors. And believe me, somebody's going to do a quick search at some point on you. You might as well have something to brand you on it, because they may be looking.
And really,
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to mention, we have an official LinkedIn page. We created that this past summer. So everyone connect to the official LinkedIn page and you can follow us as well. So,
and so you've got a company page, and do we list everybody that, I'm sorry, let me back up. So we need to make sure that their profile links back to RM Coco, so that if somebody clicks on RM Coco, it's going to show how many employees work at RM Coco and who they are. And so, so that's important.
They have to do that. When you create your RM Coco page, you have to connect to the right profile. There is 2 profiles out there. There's one that's erroneous that somebody else created, and one with the logo that we created.
So the one with the logo, and then when you connect with one of the logo shows up on your profile, which looks a lot more pro rather than just an avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and really, quite honestly, Facebook too, because I have a good example on Facebook where I share RM Coco stuff, and I have a good friend who is an architect and reached out to me knowing interior designers within the area. So, so there's people that you might not be connected with on LinkedIn that might be just a friend that you can connect with somebody else as well.
Very good. You can create now. RM Coco may have a monthly newsletter that you're sending out. Are we doing something like that, Kathy?
Well, they're doing email blasts all the time. Marketing is right now, but I don't think we have a newsletter, right, Mike?
Yeah, not right now. There's designer portfolios that's kind of like a newsletter that give inspiration every Saturday that we send out. We are, with the new marketing staff we have here, we're ramping up our kind of blogging and newslettering type of efforts. So you'll see more content going out, with now adding we used to have one person on our marketing team that was more of a graphics person. Now we have 2 people. And definitely more marketing orientated.
Good. And the third way, and I've got a couple people that I work with who do an amazing job of sending out little gifts to leave behinds, and it could be something as simple as a pen. It could be something as nice as a $5 mug. It may be something we talk about from a marketing effort in the future that you guys can send out as a leave behind or a remnant of your conversation, or a thank you after a sale. And again, that's Mike's pocketbook we're talking about. But it's something that is effective. You know, I was talking to somebody this morning that, in fact, she's does business development. She's one of our business development people, and she sends out a journal that it's recycled apple products from Italy, so that when you open the journal up, it smells like apples. And you know, it's a $12 gift that she sends as a thank you to the decision makers. And I mean, there's so many unique things that you can brand around yourself that are really, really, really effective long term. Just keep that in mind. Kathy and Mike, you decide how many millions you want to spend on that.
That's Mike's millions.
Right,
not
right.
mine.
There's really no end to that. Right. How much you could spend on those things.
No,
from
no.
from paper bag.
And there's so many things.
So, and you guys, I'm not making mugs that I made you guys for all your customers. Sorry.
We keep you busy out in the hothouse there. Yeah.
In the evening hours, yeah.
I love it. I got to tell you, sometimes making phone calls is one of the more difficult things that sales representatives do during the course of the day. And it's also tiring. It's mentally tiring. And so, but we've talked about this a little bit. Kathy, I don't know whether you've established any KPIs on this or expectations around it or not, but you need to be making a minimum number of prospecting calls every day. And Kathy, what's been the discussion on this so far, or have we had a discussion around this?
Oh yeah, they actually have documents that show KPIs on them for them. So we have documentation on number of calls we want them to make. It's kind of blended right now with accounts and prospecting. So I haven't fine-tuned that a bit more. That could come down the line a little bit. But they have KPIs on how many presentations they should try to make a month, how many, can't think of off the top of my head. There's about 5 or 6 things on the list.
Perfect. Good job. On the prospecting side, or making warmish, coldish calls, the fresher you are, and depending on what your workload is, try to do the thing. If you don't like prospecting, let me say it this way: if you don't like doing prospecting calls, do those first thing. Get them out of the way, get them done while you're fresh. You still have energy. The more you put off the thing that you don't like to do, and most sales representatives would rather be making a presentation than a prospecting call. That's just a fact of life. Time block it. Just set on your calendar between 9 and 11 o'clock every day. I'm going to make my prospecting calls. From 1 to 2, 4 to 5, whatever that time is. And we're going to talk about some best times here in a minute. If something comes up, treat it like a doctor's appointment is essentially what I'm saying. Block that time, protect that time, set it aside as prospecting call time. And however, life happens, business happens, you're going to get torn away from time to time, distracted. Don't just drop it, reschedule it. If for today you had scheduled yourself 3 hours or 2 hours of prospecting phone calls, and a sale comes through or something comes up and you lose those 2 hours, you need to get it onto another day or another time during the course of the day, because it's the pipeline, and these prospecting calls are going to keep your pipeline full, and the fuller your pipeline is, the more sales are going to come out the other end. You can create your own gusher that way. So the more of this work, which is the least attractive of all the work we typically do, is making a bunch of phone calls to people who don't know that we're going to call them or not expecting our phone call. The more we do that, the more we're going to, it's a game of numbers. Kathy knows this better than anybody, that starts building up these presentations for later. And so just block the time, schedule the time, make it a game. Reward yourself on every day that you make your goal, set a goal, achieve your goal, surpass your goal. But let me just back up, and I'm just profess my theory on this, or my opinion on this, is I'm much more interested in everybody having a great conversation on the phone calls you do make, not just having a bunch of conversations. I
Right.
want something to come from those conversations. And as I've said many times, and I'm not the sales manager there, but I think Kathy and I are of a similar thought track on this. I don't care whether you make one call or 100 calls. How many sales are you making?
Right.
Right? It's the quality that goes into those calls. The number of calls, can it help? Yeah. It's just going to make you frustrated, tired, worn out, and not very happy doing what you're doing. You're much better off making the quality of those phone calls as robust as you possibly can.
That's the exact conversation we had. So we talked about how it's a guide to help them to get where they need, and that's what our one-on-ones are for. You know, are you averaging only 2 calls every day? Then let's talk about how we can change or help you to improve to make more. You know, or are you making 50 a day, but you're not really getting any good quality calls? So that's really about what those one-on-ones are important for.
Yeah, really important. You know, it's the number of calls is somewhere between 0 and I don't know what. It's as many as it takes. But what we would like to be able to do is get you so good from the behavioral aspect of what transpires during the course of these calls that you can do less because you're so effective in these calls, right, Kathy?
Oh yeah, my last team, they had a cadence that they had to get to 80 calls a day, and if they didn't get paid. So do you think they had good calls? Absolutely not. They were just getting to those numbers.
But you got your 80 calls, didn't you?
Exactly, and they got a little bit of money in their. They got a little bit of, you know, we did points. So they got some points in their pocket. They got a little bit of money, but we didn't get any real money from them.
No, that's a loser's game. But you know, and you and I have already talked about that with Heath. Is you can't manage the numbers. You got to manage the behaviors, and you're going to be such a wealth of a resource for these ladies and helping them with the behavioral side of all this. Emails. We love emails. Emails warm up these phone calls. And again, Kathy, we can work on a series of emails. We can even template these emails if we want to, based on the type of prospect we're going after. So, because it saves time. All we have to do is put in the name and send it in order to warm up the prospect for future phone calls. So they need to be brief. You can use them over and over and over again. Submit them over to your prospect before requesting a phone call or making a phone call. They need to be no more than 4 or 5 sentences. Now, one of the things that came in the documents today, again, was a ebook with 100 different email templates in there that you guys can discuss, find the ones that work, edit them to how you will want to sound. It needs to sound like you. Kathy, you'll work with the team on getting those templates together. But I've seen dramatic changes in performance of sales representatives as soon as they dial in their email message. And the book that I sent over to you, there's a table of contents, and it breaks down every email message in there based on what's the purpose. What are you trying to do with this client? Is it a new client? Is it an existing client? Is it a reorder? What is it? And there's a series of email templates within that book that you can choose from, edit at however it makes sense to you, but the bones are all there for you to make those successful. And then, as you find emails that work, that are effective for you, share them with your partners there, and see if they want to borrow some of that success from you. Here's 5 best practices for us, an effective email. The subject line, there's people I've heard that are experts in this that say, if you need to spend more time on your subject line than you do the email. because the subject line is what gets the email opened.
Mhm.
And then once you get it open, you got to have a strong opening line. A couple important points that you're making in the body of it, and in the end, it needs to have a call to action, the CTA. And when I say call to action, Sheila, I know you've gotten these emails yourself. What does that mean to you, a call to action from a sales perspective?
Just something that you're going to do, basically, your follow-up or your next step procedure.
Exactly. You're spot on. Here's our next step. Let's set up a phone call. Let's have a presentation. Let's meet by Zoom, whatever it is. Here's the next step. And it generally is in the form of a question. And the easier you can make for them to respond, the better. And then make sure, Kathy, has everybody got a signature template that they're using on their emails?
Yes.
Perfect. Good. So we all got that. So subject line, super important. That opening line, it's like it's what keeps them reading. If you get those two things right, you're going to get more benefit out of your emails. The nice thing is, again, the book I sent you, the ebook I sent you on emails, has that done for you. Okay. And then again, just some examples, and these are just random examples I pulled out, but here's some subject lines that work. If somebody recommended that you reach out to them, put that person's name in there. So Jerry recommends I get in touch. So if you're talking to a prospect and they say, oh, you know, my friend Sheila, I think could use your services too. So I'd say, you know, Jerry told me that I needed to reach out to you. If you know something is happening in the industry, so let's think about what's happening in the world right now, and what's getting emails open. Over the past 6 months, if you have COVID anywhere in your subject line, it gets opened. If you've got pandemic, it gets opened. Now virtual, especially on the sales side, virtual training, virtual sales, that gets things opened. But there's things that are going to be happening in your industry that as you guys can discuss and share and understand what those trends are and get those into your subject lines, really important. You can ask a question. Are you looking for a new vendor? Are you having struggles with deliveries, whatever the pain point might be? Question about a goal. Do they want more sales? Do they want more profit? What do we provide? You know, if you've seen where they've had a post or a blog that they've written, if you're lucky enough to come across one of those prospects that's prolific in putting content out, you know, I want to respond about your blog. I want to respond on your video. I want to give you a compliment on this. And so it's just things like that that get emails open. Kathy, what have you utilized in the past in the way of subject lines that's been helpful?
Well, I mean, even fun things like, you know, this was an example to a sales team who never seemed to read my emails. I put in the subject line, I have chocolate. I can guarantee you they opened all of it. So, I mean, just, you can even think outside the box, you know, and think of something fun that you can put in there that you don't want it to look like those standard emails that come to you that are generated to the email blasts that come out. You want it to look different than that it's personalized. So maybe it's something you know about that person. It could be something personal even on it.
Yep, absolutely. And there's statistics that show when their name is in the subject line, they're more likely to open it. There's so much to learn from all this, and I've played around this, and I know, to your point, the funner they are, Kathy, the more likely they are to get a response.
Exactly. I actually did an exercise one time with my former team because we were working on emails, and we did an exercise on. So I just Googled, and so Google it, you guys, fun subject lines, and you'll find a whole bunch of stuff in there that you might see something that goes, oh yeah, that would work, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, have fun with it. Share the ones that work.
Mm-hmm.
Share and use. And again, as you guys dive down and start using topics and subjects and tools out of the book, share your wins, share what's working, what's not working, get better as a team. So here's one example of an email that you can send out. As you can see, it is an opening line that says, I noticed you were recently something about their company and their company name, and you put from my experience, usually becomes a priority when it happens. So you're being very conversational about this, but these are the kind of lines that get people to read further. Best times to send an email. There's stats to everything in the world now, I think. And this is one of those stats that I know works. The best days of the week and the best times of the day. So if you look at 11 a.m. Is the best time. That's when people open emails. So if you're getting in their email box around between 10 and 11, as you can see, it starts rising right after 9. But look at what happens at night because people aren't at work opening their emails. So that's natural. But here's this whole chart, and again, this is I believe from HubSpot, talks about that Mondays and Wednesdays tied for second place with an 18% higher open rate. Thursdays are 15%. Fridays, the kiss of death for emails. So keep that in mind. I'm going to drop this little reminder in there. When we talk about prospecting, we're talking about following up. And 80% of sales come from the 6th plus follow-up. It takes a lot of persistence. And so most, and I'm going to go into some stats in just a minute, most salespeople give up way too soon in their follow-up, which leaves a lot of their potential sales on the table. Now, this goes without saying, but I decided to drop it in here. When you're on the phone, you got to be positive. You got to be up. You got to have some energy, but you got to be yourself. Again, you want to lose your sales voice. You don't want to be, hey, this is Vaughn. How you doing today? Kind of thing. That turns people off. But you need to have some energy and enthusiasm. You can't sound like Igor. Persistence. You may need to make up to 10 call attempts before you give up on somebody. It may take 10 call attempts before you even get in touch with them. Please just don't stop after one call. You got to keep calling and don't give up after 3 calls. Don't give up after 5 calls. If you leave a voicemail, that voicemail needs to be less than 7 seconds. I hear salespeople leaving these voicemails where they're explaining the world and what they're doing and how the weather is, and no, this is Leslie, RM Coco. Call me back. Done. I've got something you need to know. I've got some information for you. Done. Move on. 7 seconds, because they just won't listen past that. We've got a 7-second attention span. And understand too that if you're calling a bigger organization and there's a gatekeeper, gatekeepers come in at 9 and they go home at 5. If you want to talk to a decision maker and skip the gatekeeper, call at 8 or call after 5. It's amazing how your results go up. How many touches should you give? So you know, there's going to be some people that just never respond to you. And that's okay. Again, they just weren't prepared to do business or interested in doing business with you. So you got to decide on that. I've got to take care of something real quick. Hang on 1 second, guys. This is not going to go good. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. I had a fire alarm going off. I had to figure out what was going on. My apologies. Could you guys hear that? No? Okay.
No.
Good. This microphone works. It's supposed to block out those kind of noises. So anyway, back to persistence, back to making sure that you are you're doing as much as you need to be doing. There's a point of diminishing return, and let me get to that slide again. Sorry.
Hey, Vaughn, you have the recording going again, I guess?
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir.
Okay.
It's going. Thank you for reminding me, though.
Thanks.
Here we go. If you've reached out to them 10 times, 12 times, and you've got no response, it goes without saying, hey, this person's not interested. But there's a last ditch effort, and I'm interested, Kathy, if you've ever used this technique in the past, is to send them a breakup email. Say, hey, I've reached out to you 10 times. I've heard nothing back. Give me permission to close your file, and I'm not going to reach out to you anymore. And again, it's last ditch. You had nothing to lose. But I got to tell you, I've had more than a few people say, hold on. I'm interested. I've just been too busy to get back to you. Have you had any experience with that, Kathy?
To be honest, not really.
Okay. Have you tried it and not had any results, or never really tried it?
I would say never really tried it.
It's worth it to have in your arsenal because it works often enough that you want to keep doing it. And you've got breakup emails in your ebook that I sent over. But tell them, this is the last one I'm going to send you. You're not going to hear from me anymore. And I can't tell you how many times. In fact, in my own personal experience, I had a guy that I got to practice what I preach. It was 18 months of follow-up. And I think I was on my 15th or 16th outreach to him, somebody I really wanted to do business with. And I finally said, hey, obviously you're not interested in doing business. I'm going to close your file and you're not going to hear from me again. He called me in 2 minutes.
I don't know which one it is, but I think one of the email templates that we have in Goldmine, that's Heath's. I think Heath has one of those that says, I've reached out to you, whatever it says, this will be the last time. I think there's one in there I read through.
Good.
I don't know how much he's used it, but he has a copy of it.
Yeah.
You're right. I've seen that, Sheila. I have seen that in there too.
The real point in all this is somewhere past 10 or 12 outreaches, this one needs to go out. And you, as part of your sales system, need to know what that's going to be. It needs to be north of 8. It probably needs to be south of 20. Somewhere in there is when you finally have to give up and go away. Data shows that most salespeople give up way too early. And I'm going to share some statistics with you guys. 20% of all sales reps make 80% of the sales. That's the old 80-20 rule, right? But they're very often are selling to clients that others have abandoned. And they've been persistent enough to continue reaching out. 50% of sales, and I've cited the sources here, so you can fact check me on this. 50% of sales happen after the 5th contact. As I've shared with you, 80% of sales happen after the 6th contact. So there's a huge difference even between the 5th and the 6th contact is your sales results are going to go up. It takes 8 cold calls to reach a prospect. 72% of sales, 72% of sales calls aren't answered. So you can expect to not be answered on a phone call. And gosh, I've seen people, well, we need to change our phone number. They need to know it's not coming from RM Coco. I need to use my cell phone. That's silliness. I assure you it's silliness. It has nothing to do with you or where you're calling from. It's statistics. 72% of phone calls just don't get answered. I can tell you almost 100% of my phone calls don't get answered with people calling me. I let it go to voicemail and I manage my time that way. 92% of sales pros give up after the 4th call. Only 2% of sales happen at the first meeting, so it's very, very rare. That's a unicorn. Stay vigilant. 83% of your prospects who request info don't buy for 3 to 12 months. You don't know where they are in their buying window when they first reach out. So, you know, there's different personality types. And I'm betting you Mike Carr is probably, Mike, I know you've done a disc profile, probably a high C. He's frozen up. I don't know that he can hear me.
Yeah.
You're a high C?
Yeah. Here, C stands for
Compliance. You're
probably so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And when you're dealing with a prospect like Mike, they're going to take 3 to 6 months to make a decision whether they even trust you or not. They do not make quick decisions. They're going to research, they're going to compare, they're going to think, they're going to mull it over. And sometimes these buying cycles are immediate, and sometimes they can take as much as a year. Stay vigilant. The best time to contact a lead is 4 to 6 p.m. on a Thursday or 5 minutes after their inquiry. So if it's an inbound lead, if you get back within 5 minutes, your likelihood of sale goes up. And if you really want to talk to somebody, after 4 o'clock is a great time to call them. And on average, and this is sad, but it's true, and you probably do the same thing, 48% of emails are deleted in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it becomes a game of numbers. There's some volume that's associated with there, but more importantly, they're not deleting you. They just don't have, they're trying to clean up their mailbox. Let me ask you, there's 2 kinds of people in the world, and I've actually shifted my side of the fence on this. How many people on this call today want to clean up and have all their emails read before they go home at the end of the day?
Me.
Yeah, and I used to be like that. Mike, do you clean up your email box every day?
I try to.
Yeah, there's I think my wife has got 40,000 emails
Yeah,
in her inbox. Uh,
unread.
unread.
Oh, I keep tons of emails. I keep tons of emails in my inbox, the ones I want to go back to. And I try to immediately get rid of the emails that have nothing to do with me and try and delete immediately and save the emails that I need to get back to.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I think most of your team is like that, but there's a lot of people out there that just leave them. Just leave them unread, and they just stay in there. And Sarah's shaking her head. That'd keep you up at night, wouldn't it, Sarah?
It makes me cringe just thinking about it because, like, on my personal email, every time I get one in the little box, it has like the number, and that number, it just sits there, and I can't handle it being there. So I go through them all and I read them all, or I delete them right away, or whatever. I can't do it. My anxiety gets too crazy for that.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. And what people will do is they'll set it up and they'll just go through and start delete because they don't have time to get to those emails today because they have to clean up their email box. Right? It's the OCD part of it, right?
Yep.
And you may be in there and it's not that they're deleting Sarah or they're deleting Sheila or they're deleting Grace. They just don't have time for your email today. That's no knock on you.
Mhm.
It's just human nature.
So I have a question.
Please.
Because people are like that, I would think majority of people are like that. Would you send more than one, or would you just let it go and just follow up next time?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Sarah. And Kathy will work with you guys on your process and all this. But here's the process that I like: is first 2 outreaches are emails. Then I follow up with a phone call. If I still don't have a response, I send 2 more emails, another phone call. Now I'm at 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in the game. I'll send another email. I'll do another phone call, another email, another phone call, another email, another phone call. And then I'll send the breakup email.
Okay.
Okay. And that's the persistence. Thank you so much for asking that question. That's the persistence I'm speaking of. You just got to keep going after it. Now, you want to do it over time. You don't want to do that over 13 days. You want to do that over a series of a month or 2. And then, Kathy, I'm not sure you have a strong opinion or you set this up this way, is once I go through a list of prospects in my pipeline and I've hit them 13 to 15 times, whatever the number is, unless they've told me no, they're still a prospect. Unless they've gone out
Right.
of business, they're still a prospect. So you put them on a once a month or every other month that you're going to do an email and outreach to them, but they're just not going to be on that quick follow up over a couple months process. You
Right. That's
Sarah,
I have one more
Yeah.
question.
please.
Something about that. So if someone says no, for instance, I had some lady who just says was straight out not interested and hung up on me. I was going to follow up with her 2 months after that phone call. I sent her an email, obviously, and so I should keep following up with her every month or every 2 months just to, basically say, hey, I'm still here.
No, I wouldn't.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't. I think she's told you. Listen, there is no shortage of the number of people you can be talking to. Spending 30 seconds sending her an email is probably a 30 seconds of futility. I'd rather you spend that 30 seconds on other people who haven't said no.
Okay.
You okay with that, Kathy?
Yes. I mean, I think that with our industry especially, it depends on what you're selling. So I think that in this particular industry, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. And the other thing you guys are continuing to work on is core principle number 7, which is your value proposition. That goes into your 30-second commercial. So we need to make sure that we've got that dialed in as part of your either opening line of your email or in your 30-second commercial. And we've got to make sure that we're dealing with the right person. And so part of that phone call or part of your strategy's got to be is, am I talking to the right person in the organization? So part of your prospecting responsibilities is making sure that we're talking to the right person. I think in your industry, because it's generally a bunch of small businesses that you're dealing with, but there's big ones that you have the opportunity to do business with. You want to make sure you're meeting with and scheduling time with the right person in the organization, the person that has the decision-making authority to buy or purchase products from you. You want to be able to ask enough questions, the right questions, and Kathy and the team will work on what those questions look like as a course of our next session, which is we're going to get you the 21 questions you're going to have available to ask every prospect once you get them to a deeper conversation. We need to make sure that they have the decision-making authority. Experience with that, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so, you know, it really comes down to just have a question or two that that's going to be a confirmation that assures you that this person is, and you know, and it doesn't. Here's what it doesn't sound like. Are you the person that makes decisions about buying stuff around there? Yeah, not that you guys would ever do that, but you need to have a question or two in your early going to understand what this person does and what their authority is in the organization. And again, Kathy can help you design and fit that in.
Okay.
So also there's going to be people who are interested, but they need to know that your quality, that you're a business that they want to do business with. So they want to know who you've done business with. It's kind of a social proof sort of thing. So Kathy, do we have a list of clients that we can or should be sharing with anybody that wants to know that?
I guess I don't know what you mean by that question.
All right. So, you know, you'll go to a web page and it'll say, here's all of our clients that have been satisfied by us. And they got X sign or
like testimonials.
Well, no, it's just their ability to say, we've done business with this design firm, this design firm, this design firm. And if you want to call and get a reference on us, here's people that would talk to you and sing our praises.
Oh, I know there are, I'm not sure if, I don't know for sure if we have that list. That would be something Heath would know more of.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if we have that list.
Okay.
I would think we would.
I'm sure you do. And
right.
At some point your team's going to be asked, well, I want to know who you've done business with in the past and can I talk to them? It's not going to happen
Right.
often, but be prepared for that.
Right.
And here's another important part of prospecting is setting clear, mutually understood first meeting expectations. So you've got to determine the agenda. That agenda is to some degree dictated by what the prospect is looking for, but make sure that we all understand what this phone call or this meeting or this presentation is going to be about. And in the end, we're trying to find out their needs. We're trying to figure out during the course of when we start getting into the meat of a presentation, how we can satisfy their needs, how we can solve their pains, the needs that they have, how our product and services fit into those needs, and making sure that we have everybody that needs to be at that meeting. So that's where that decision-making understanding comes from. Is, do you have a partner? Do you have other people that make buying decisions around there that would be interested in being part of this meeting? Because the thing we want to avoid is, okay, I've got to go talk to my partner about this before we can do anything. Get that partner into the presentation when you can. And number 11, be prepared to handle objections. And listen, the first objection is generally a natural reaction. Most people will just say, well, I want to think about it, or I'm not sure about this. But be prepared for those. And we're going to talk further. I think it's number 9 about overcoming objections, but be prepared. People are going to say no to either making a presentation or setting a next appointment. No doesn't always mean, and I'm just contradicting myself, no. If they say, no, I'm never going to be interested and hang up on you, I'm probably not. What most no's mean, based on how that conversation has flowed, is not right now. Or I'm too busy right now. Can you call me in 2 months? Yeah, but let's set something up. Let's go ahead and schedule some time on the calendar so we can set that time aside. And that way you won't forget and I won't forget. And we're going to go into a very deep dive of how to handle objections in a future module. So don't worry too much about this one, but just be prepared that people are going to push back on you. And if it's a very common objection, which is, yeah, I don't need anything right now. Well, that's not a no, I don't need anything right now, means I don't need anything right now. And so it's, you want to ask, well, or when can I call you in the future? What might be a time that you'll have a need? Don't just give up, is the point of all this. Right, Kathy?
Right.
Okay. So in conclusion, prospecting is the lifeblood of your success. It's hard. There's a lot of things to remember. There's lots of obstacles you're going to face and experience. You know, the average sales rep, according to the Bridge Group and forentrepreneurs.com, is they're going to make 33 calls a day. That takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of rejection that's included in all that. Out of those 33 phone calls, the average is you're going to have about 6.6 conversations per day, which is great. That gives you 6, almost 7 opportunities to get that conversation to the next step. But I don't know whether it's going to be the first 10 calls or the last 10 calls or somewhere in between. There's no rhyme or reason as to when people are going to answer and when people are going to actually have conversations with you. So I got to make all the calls until I have the conversations. Mm-hmm. And the more conversations you have, that's the direct correlation that goes to quota or sales achievement, which is kind of, no duh. And here's the downside of it. When to just show you how difficult it can be and will be, 90% of CEOs say they never return cold calls or cold emails. 90%. So that's not 90% from Sarah or Grace or Leslie or any of the group there. It's just 90% don't. Now, these are generally, this was a survey of bigger organizations. But you just got to understand that rejection is part of what's going to happen, and it's never directed at you. It's never, hardly ever, what you've done wrong or what you perceive that you may be making mistakes around. It's just that they don't have time. They're not interested right now. They're too busy with other things. It has little or nothing to do with you. When they start not following up with you or not returning your phone calls, hardly ever has it got anything to do with you. So we're coming up on the end of time here, but I want to make sure if we have any questions that we get those answered. So let me open it up for question. Who has a question or anything else they'd like to talk further about? Good. Kathy, have I scared them appropriately on prospecting?
I'll know as soon as you hang up, Vaughn. No, I think you're good. I think they're good.
God. All right. Thank God I took it from 17 down to 11, right, ladies? But Leslie, just quickly, what is one thing that rang with you today that's a key takeaway for you?
Don't be scared and make more than 6 contacts.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Good job. How about you, Sheila?
Turned it off instead of on. Sorry. I was thinking the same thing, to the continuing to touch back, not give up too soon.
Don't give up. Amen. How about you, Grace?
I guess just what we went over with emailing and subject line and how often we should email them, and right after we talk to them, we should email them. Just
Okay.
kind of that whole roundabout.
Follow up. Okay. Very good. And Sarah?
To not have to repeat anybody's, I think the best thing that I got out of it today was, I had it in my head, now I just forgot. Hold on. How to end the phone call, getting that follow-up scheduled right away, then just leaving it open. That's one important thing, because I usually leave it open. Like, I'm going to call you back in a month. No date, no time. You know, basically giving them, saying, well, how is Tuesday at 9 o'clock for you work on October 12th? I don't know if it's Tuesday or not, but you're getting that exact date and exact time. So that way they're expecting your phone call, and you're less likely to get a voicemail if you have it not open-minded or open-lined.
Yeah. And that's such a key takeaway. And I'm going to be really interested, Sarah, in what your experience looks like from that.
I hope it goes better.
Oh, it will. It will. And I think you'll be surprised at how many more people show up for that next phone call too. All right. Yeah, I've got a couple other phone calls on here that I don't know who they are. I've got one that says HELPD.
That's my second computer.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. All right. Want to make sure the one that wasn't working too good. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we'll, Kathy, I'll get with, or Mike, did you have a takeaway that you wanted to note from today? Any final words from you, sir?
Sure. I think it's how persistent you have to be, and how it doesn't come easy after a call or 2, 4 calls, if not 8 calls, before you finally break through. And it's persistence that makes the difference.
Amen. Amen. That's the glue to all of it. Kathy, any key words before we depart here today?
I think that's huge. I've worked for a lot of companies that they think they can get to 4 calls and they stop making calls. And I've always said that's not enough. So I think that's huge. And I love the breakup email, to be honest, that I haven't really used. So I think that'll be fun to use a little bit.
Yeah, it gets enough shaken out of the tree that it's worth doing. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we'll, Kathy, I'll get back with you probably a little bit later today, and we'll schedule our next appointment between the 3 of us, me, you, and Heath. And then we'll also schedule the next training session with these fine ladies. And go forth and be successful, ladies. Thank you all very much for your time today. Thank you, Mike, and we'll talk again soon.